My name is Adrian Locke. I work at the Royal Academy of Arts, where I'm a curator in the temporary exhibition programme, and I'm curator of the exhibition Mexico, A Revolution in Art 1910 to 1940, which opens in July this year. Well, the exhibition is about a particular period, you can tell from the title, 1910 to 1940 in Mexico, and the huge cultural change that took place in Mexico at that time following the revolution from 1910 to 1920. And really the idea is to show how international Mexico was at that time, and to look at the art produced in Mexico, both by Mexican and by international artists who visited Mexico during that period. What did attract people to go to Mexico at that time? There was the politics. Of course, it was a left-wing government that had ushered in a new radical reform of the political and educational and economic systems in Mexico, and was bringing about social change. But I think people also wanted to go to Mexico because it sort of gave them a sense of adventure. There was a fantastic history, the pre-Columbian history, the colonial history of Mexico. There was the regional differences in climate and food and language and people. And there was also a sense that Mexico was a kind of liberal and relaxed place to go, where sexual relationships, whether heterosexual or homosexual, were much more tolerated. Alcohol consumption was much more liberal. So it sort of had a bohemian attraction as well as a kind of cultural one. I think there'll be artists in the exhibition that people will have heard of. Frida Kahlo, for example, definitely. Diego Rivera, quite likely. And there'll be a whole range of artists working in Mexico at this time that they may or may not be familiar with. But what I think might be the surprise is looking at artists that went to Mexico and worked in Mexico that they hadn't perhaps suspected had been there. People like Joseph Albers, Marsden Hartley, there's the British artist Leon Underwood, of course there's Edward Weston and Tina Modotti. There's a whole range of really interesting artists and photographers, as well as novelists, which we can't include in the exhibition, like D.H. Lawrence and Graham Greene, who also went to Mexico, and they kind of build up this great feeling or sense of what it was like to have been in Mexico at that time. Well, it's been a very exciting project to work on. I think one of the gauges always of a project like this is how your ideas are received externally. So when you go to a museum or to a library to ask to borrow stuff from them, how they respond, and the overall response has been incredibly positive. So I think people are very kind of warmed to the idea, which of course has helped us in our task and enthused us in our task. So it's been a very exciting project to work on. From the perspective of the Royal Academy, I think it's also very important that we're doing an exhibition on 20th century art of Mexico. This is not a subject that the Royal Academy has ever tackled before. So we are kind of changing the boundaries a little bit, or forcing the boundaries a bit at the RA. And I think it's great that we can do that and open up to a whole world, of which Latin America is just one element, but to show art from outside of the centre, if you like, what was happening across the world at different times and how that has had an impact on the history of world art.